The other day during my 100k subscriber special stream, we started building this little house, and unfortunately we didn't get it finished, but we did discover some really interesting things about doing the roofs. So today we're going to be talking about how to do more advanced roof styles in Sons of the Forest, because this build system is so much more advanced than I realized, and it's actually pretty difficult to work with. So let's jump over to an area where we can build these. And here we are. You can see we've got quite a few designs to get through. So we're going to drop down and then we're going to start with the basics. Here we have the first version of roofs. They start with the flat one, if we just jump over here, which is just a normal flat floor, but obviously you can use that as a ceiling or a roof. And then we can work our way down. And all we've done is on one side, we've cut down the logs by quarter, by half, by 3/4, and run the, like a diagonal log between them before roofing them. We can do it really simply with these here. If we just grab these, for example, with this section, we can cut this in half, then add our diagonals like so, and from here we can start roofing should we wish. One thing to bear in mind with roofing, as soon as it's on an angle, you have the option to, if you right click, to choose whether you want to place them like you would a staircase, or if you right click again, you can see how the arrow changed slightly its position, or we can place them on a slope as well. So those are the simple ones out of the way. I don't really want to talk about them too much because everyone talks about them. We've covered them a few times. We want to talk about the more advanced systems for this. By the way, if you are finding this guide helpful, please do hit the thumbs up. I really do appreciate it. And if you want to see more, make sure to subscribe as well. So for this one, we're going to be talking about the peaked roofs. Now, these are quite interesting because there's numerous versions of this. This one didn't turn out how I intended, but hey, it's still an interesting build for you guys to have a look at. But you can see for these, there's numerous ways in which you can do them. For these, all we need to do, if we place down our base again. Now that we have our base down here, in fact, I should have done this on the floor to start off with, just to explain it. We'll do it here. All we're going to do with this system is grab a piece of wood, place it down on the floor like we've done there, make sure it's horizontal. And then from here, we're going to grab a 3/4, half, or quarter log, depending on what you want. And we're going to place it on top. From here, we can grab 2 more full logs and we're going to just place them on top. This creates a very gentle sloped roof. And you can do this with different pieces as well, depending on what you're looking for. For example, we can cut this so it's a half piece. And then from here, we can place these down like so. And you can see how it's slightly more peaked. We can actually add another level to this like so. And we've got an even more peaked build. However, I recommend if you are doing this to place them down first and then add the beams because they're flat, as you can see here. This allows us to create peaked roofs that are half the size of these larger ones. To do this though, you have to make sure that both pieces on the ramp section are exactly the same. Now it's really easy to pick up the wrong piece and add the larger planks to the top, and they will be very similar in height. I did it along here and couldn't cover the ramped pieces at all because of that. And I couldn't work out why the reason was until I broke it all down and I'd realized one of the bottom pieces was 3/4 and one a half piece, but it was really difficult to tell which was which. So do be aware of that. But with this, we're going to just simply add our pieces. You can add a top support if you wish, like so. And at this point, we can start covering this one in. And you can do this from below should you wish. It's pretty easy. And once done, you'll have something like this. And I do highly recommend experimenting with these pieces. As you can see, we've done a single layer on this one. This is 2 layers. I believe that's a 3/4 log and a half log. Then we've tried the same with a 3/4 log and a 1/4 log, and it's slightly more peaked. This is a perfect example of one that's really difficult to tell which piece that you're using. So just be aware of that. You won't be able to connect the two together if they went parallel. We then have this one. Now this one is a little bit, it's the same concept. However, it's a little bit more odd shapes. It's something that you might see along I guess a church spire. And the way that we've done this, and similar to these ones as well, is we've taken our ground piece and for these ones, I believe they're all just these single logs on top. So if we just quickly place this down, you can see how it's created this quite tight section. Well, we can go tighter by adding more of these on top. And to do that, you see here, we're making sure that the line is horizontal, the little arrow there. That's just going to lift it up like so. And you can do this until you've got the height that you're looking for. Obviously, the further you go up, it may start lifting this up, which lends itself to having its own kind of lip. I haven't worked out how to extend once it's lifted above the support. I don't know how to extend the line down, which would be really cool. But again, they are still working on the system, so this may change at a later stage. Just be aware that's how that system works, and that once it's past here, I can't help you. Maybe there's a way of extending it, but at the moment I haven't worked it out. In fact, let me know in the comments if you've worked out how to, because that would be awesome. Moving on, we have these. Now these ramps are the same system as over there. We've just filled them out. But it starts to get interesting because depending on what you do, it can greatly change how your build is focused. And with this system as well, I don't know if this is intentional. It can look kind of cool on the peak of a roof though. This one is all facing one way and this side is actually the opposite way around. So I believe they will be working on this further. So the way that we do this kind of piece is we're going to grab a single piece. We're going to add this like so. And you can see how this has already given it a different kind of look there. We've got one side that's upside down and the other one that's kind of slanted. I wanted to see if it was possible to create a kind of spiral staircase, but we haven't been able to just yet. I'm still going to work on this and see what we can generate. But now that we've added that in, we are going to grab our half pieces. And then from here, we're going to place them on the outside. And you see how that has lifted this one up here. And obviously we can do this on the other side as well. And you can see it's done another different kind of system to it. And that depends on how many pieces or what type of pieces you lay down on here first. Again, an interesting build technique, something that I recommend playing about with. But again, I do think they're going to be refining this. Moving on, we have this slightly ramped build, which then goes into a much steeper ramp. Notice how this is slightly different to this one. And the way that we've done that is, let me prepare a spot really quickly and then we'll talk about that. So now we have this one set up. It's just a very small one. It's a 3/4 log followed by the top sections. But you can see this has created a snapping point in the center now. And from here, we can add these on top of both of them. And from there, we can, depending on where we are, we can add these. You may need to extend this out first. There we go. Make sure you extend that line. And there we go. Do the same on this side. This has now given us a new opportunity for placing a secondary ramp, which we're adding on top. And that gives us this more peaked roof, followed by a gentle slant. And I have to say, it's something that I'm really excited to play around with. But more interestingly, with this system, we've managed to, within this grid, create extra snapping points. So if we grab these, you'll notice that we can now place the panels much closer together. Now, I've only been able to successfully do this once and allow them to be connected, and that was through having supports underneath at my other build. For example, in this build here, we've had to add these supports underneath, but we have been able to connect the smaller sections, as you can see here. And this is something that I'm still playing about with, and it's the reason why I haven't continued with this build, because it is much more difficult, but it does allow for some really interesting shapes within the build. So I'm going to continue working at this, and perhaps you'll see some more stuff on it later on. I wanted to go back to this piece as well, because this is slightly different to the ones that I showed before. You can see how it's much more narrow in the build itself. So what we're going to do for this one, I think that's a half piece, yeah. We're going to place this on top. And then from here, we're going to grab a full log, and from there we can place that, and you can see how this has lifted that up. And if we grab another, should do the same. There we are, and that's how we do that section. This one actually looks like they're correctly placed, these little logs. Certainly a really interesting one to play around with for the apex of a part of your build. But I did also want to quickly, briefly talk about this. This is just a culmination of what we did initially using the taller logs. And I think that's a really interesting way to build a peak to the entrance to your houses. But really, that's all the tips that I have when it comes to building these. I know this is a very wordy video. I hope you found it interesting nonetheless, but there was no way I could really break this down any easier. But guys, thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments below. I still haven't been able to do corner pieces that are ramped, so I'm still working on that. But I thought this was interesting enough to share with you. If you did like the video, hit the thumbs up, and obviously if you want to see more, don't forget to subscribe. I've got some really interesting builds and guides coming up in the not so distant future. Special thanks does go to all of our amazing supporters, most notably our Solarclipse patrons, James Irwin, Firefless and Trebor, as well as our Lunas, The Calamity, Ben, Star, Shoku the Emin Wolf, and That Dude AW, as well as our Blood Moon of the Day, which today is the Salchan Husky. Until next time, as always, ciao for now.